Are you tired of thinking about drinking, trying to control it, and ending up in the same loop? Welcome to the Feel Good Alcohol Free podcast, where high achieving women learn how to step out of the stop start cycle and build a life that feels calm, clear, and alcohol free on purpose. I'm your host, Lindsay, accredited sober coach and former high functioning drinker. After more than a decade of drinking every night while keeping up a big career and a life that looked fine from the outside, I rebuilt my identity from the inside out. Now I help women stop negotiating with themselves and trust their own decisions again. This isn't a podcast full of cliches or willpower pep talks. You're getting real conversations, lived experience coaching, and practical tools you can use inside your actual life, not perfect conditions. So take a breath. You're here because you're ready to feel good in your real life. So let's get started. I am so excited about this conversation today. Lila Volkas is a certified nutrition consultant, workshop facilitator, and a non-alcoholic beverage expert, and she's based in Oakland, California. With over 13 years of facilitation experience, she brings joy and connection to individuals and corporate teams through interactive beverage, food, and wellness experiences. Lila makes healthy living accessible and fun through these hands-on activities, delicious recipes, and her signature non-alcoholic beverage workshops. Inspired by her own healing journey, she blends holistic health with a balanced, approachable mindset, empowering people to make informed choices while savoring the sweet things in life. I am really excited for you to meet my guest today. Lila, I'm excited to have you here. Nutrition is such an important topic for all of us, and yet it's also something that can be really overwhelming to think about. So I'm thrilled that you're here to provide your insights and practical tips to our listeners.
Very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'd love to start with an introduction of who you are and the work that you're doing.
Yes. So my name is Lila Volkas, and I am a holistic nutritionist based in Oakland, California. And I run a business hosting workshops at the intersection of food and beverages and wellness. So with a background in holistic nutrition, I love bringing education around culinary topics, wellness, as well as mixology all together to make, those topics really fun to learn and easy to understand.
I specifically like how you do this in corporate setting because something that I manage a lot with the women that hire me is this: how do I show up at work, social events or work trips or entertaining clients or all of those things and be alcohol free? I really like that you're pulling that into the workplace because I do think that there's this unwritten expectation of how you have to be doing certain things with certain people that you work with to get ahead or whatever. So I'm really excited. But before we go into that tangent, for those who might not know, can you explain what holistic nutrition is?
Yeah, so holistic nutrition is really considering health as a multifaceted interworking system. So it's not just about what you're eating, the macronutrients, the calories. It's about connecting lifestyle, emotions, trauma, and all of those things, considering that they all have an impact on your overall health. And how does food play into that holistic view that our body is, everything is connected, basically.
I don't think that I even realized that holistic nutrition included like our emotional well-being. And I am somebody who often eats my feelings. I used to drink alcohol and now I don't. And sometimes I find myself digging in the candy drawer just because I'm feeling a certain way. I'm growing more and more excited about what I'm going to learn from you today. Okay, tell me a little bit more about your own health and wellness journey.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in health. I started out being particularly interested in fitness, and I loved the group energy. So I started my health journey by first being a spin instructor before Soul Cycle and all of the modern rave exercise classes. I was teaching spin classes, and that morphed into becoming a yoga teacher. And then it was really going through my own health crisis about 10 years ago. I kind of had some symptoms of like rashes and some digestive issues, but they all came to this apex where I woke up one day and my face was covered in rashes that really didn't go away. It wasn't an allergic reaction, or it was, but it was like a slow build. So from that really uncomfortable experience, I got me into considering, what am I eating and how is it making me feel, and what are all the different pathways that I can explore to feel better and not be in chronic stomach pain and not have rashes all over my body and not be chronically fatigued. So it took a long journey of seeing conventional medicine practitioners, nutritionists, acupuncturists, psychics. I was open to anything because I was really desperate for answers. But I found that a huge impact, positive impact, was shifting what I was eating and really considering my food. So that inspired me to go back to school for holistic nutrition to help other people feel as good in their bodies as possible.
Oh, I love this. I often say, because it was some sort of marketing slogan at some point in my life, but we are what we eat. And that doesn't just mean food, like we are what we consume. And
Hmm.
that's alcohol, that's everything. Oh, I'm so first sorry that you experienced that, but it sounds like it brought you to a beautiful path to have
Yeah.
an amazing impact on the world.
Totally. And I think even before that apex of health challenges, I wasn't feeling great before that. That just happened to be when everything kind of came to a head, and it like forced me to examine that. And sometimes it takes that going to the extreme to find healing. Sometimes the like low hum of discomfort isn't quite enough to make us take action.
I can very much relate to that. And I think that my audience can too, because that's the very definition of high functioning. And when you drink regularly and you let your health fall to the wayside, you become used to feeling a certain way. And that's just how you're operating all the time. And so you have this sort of excuse in your back pocket of like, oh, but I get everything done.
Mhm.
And this thing is my reward, but at what cost? And you just don't even know how good you can feel when you change what you put in your body. Would you say that that's really also what led you into this world, like into the nutrition and then to become an educator?
I've always been drawn to teaching. And so I think my first job ever was, as soon as I could get a job at 14 and a half, was teaching gymnastics. And so I loved teaching people things. And then it really evolved. And I think the connection with food started before my kind of health crisis when I was in college and I started brewing kombucha. And I was making kombucha. So I've always been, crunchy, into the holistic topics, and DIY. And so in 2013, I taught my very first kombucha class, which is a big part of what changed my life in terms of work, because that is what I ended up doing that led me to teaching corporate team building classes, was that kombucha class. And that was my number one booked class for years.
And now you do these in the corporate setting, and
Yes.
that has to be so fun.
Totally. Corporate team building is a very large portion of my business. An HR department wants to do a wellness month or a wellness series. So they bring me on to teach kombucha classes, or to do some mocktail mixology, or to do a health talk for how to support your energy with holistic nutrition. There's a whole other category of team fun that people plan fun events for their team or for the entire company once a quarter, once a month, once a year. And so that's where I also fit in. And then sometimes teams have celebrations for a particular occasion. They got a funding round. They want to cheers everyone. So they, want to make mocktails together. But specifically, since I specialize in wellness, I get brought on a lot for wellness themed fun, which is I love my niche.
I love that. I love that
Yeah.
companies are doing it too. Okay, let's just take a quick break from the podcast so that I can tell you about a little Italian magic in a can. It's Lapos non-alcoholic Negroni. This was born in Florence's most iconic bar, and it's a zero-proof cocktail that captures the essence of a classic Negroni. So it is perfectly bittersweet with notes of juniper and bright citrus, lightly sparkling, and as the Italians say, molto bitter. So you can sip this straight from the can or have it the way that I have it. Now, you know that I live in Vermont if you've been listening to this for a while. And my husband makes this drink for me with an orange slice and a hint, just a little tiny splash of Vermont maple syrup. And it is so incredibly delicious. I drink these all summer long, all spring, all year. This was a big Christmas time beverage for me. And now the most exciting part is that it is available at your local Whole Foods market. So the next time you're shopping, add a 4-pack to your cart and bring a little taste of Italy home with you. And if you prefer online shopping, you can grab this at thezeroproof.com, which is always linked in the show notes here. So you can grab it there. And if you haven't placed an order yet, you get a discount with my link. So enjoy trying this NA alcohol free option and send me a message. Let me know if you try it with a little bit of maple syrup. How would you describe your approach to nutrition and wellness?
Yeah, so it's gone along a journey like my own health journey, like we all evolve as humans. So I think when I started on my, nutrition and wellness path, I was desperate to feel better. So I took a kind of intense, rigid stance towards wellness, where this kind of food was good and this kind of food was bad, and you should do this and don't do this. And as I've evolved as a human, I've found that that no longer serves me, having this really black and white kind of thinking. So I really like to bring the concept of balance and nuance to the wellness world and to nutrition and to food, where there's never a one size fits all for everybody. And there's also, different things that inform what kind of choices you make. I like to humanize myself to folks and be like, I like candy. I like chocolate cake. You know, I eat those things. I'm not all kale salads and quinoa all the time. And I think that what I have really found that works for me is really tapping into what works for my body and using that as a compass.
I can relate to this so much. There's something very specific that you said that has been a big part of my mindset work for this last, I don't know, year and a half when I had this realization is around what's good food and bad food. And I've always labeled something good or bad and then made the bad like off limits. And then it makes me just want to binge eat it later. Like an example of this would be, okay, I need to be good this week. And, this kind of falls with alcohol too. Like I would say, like, I need to be good. And then for me, I live in Vermont. And so in the summer, we have maple creamies, which is basically like a soft serve ice cream. And it could be like a Tuesday. And my husband asking me like a normal person, like, "Oh, do you want to go get a creamy after dinner?" And I would be like, that's in the bad category. I can't have that on a Tuesday. Like that's like a Saturday food when I've been good all week as my reward." And so like that kind of thinking has really messed with me, I think, throughout my life, as I'm sure you know. And this last summer was probably one of the first summers where I kind of said a little something to myself on Mondays, like, if I want a creamy today, I can go have one.
Yeah,
Because a creamy, again, is like not poison.
right.
And I don't have to have a large creamy. There's so much more to it than
Yeah.
the food itself.
Absolutely. Food has such emotional significance, and I mean, and social and cultural, and of course it is part of our wellness. We are, what we eat in some ways, but it's also a huge part of, our spiritual experience. And so I really believe in pleasure, and if we're not experiencing pleasure in this lifetime while we have this life, then like what's the point? So I really hold that is really important. And like you, I think, everyone has their own challenges with food or alcohol. And myself, I can be very intensely strict with myself. And that is something that has been my journey to come into balance with that. What resonates from hearing your share is, the rules and following the rules, and then you get a reward, and it's this very intense system, but that actually has a lot of, for me, negative self-talk, and it has a lot of pain in that. And so I think it's been a journey, and I feel really proud and really good about where I've landed with how I kind of hold nutrition and wellness in general. And I think there is just an arc of folks' story in getting into that. At first, I was like really desperate and I would do anything to feel better. So I had really strict diet. I cooked all my own food for over a year. I did all that and that was necessary. And then I moved beyond that chapter.
I can relate to that. I mean, I think anytime you make changes to your behavior or how you're showing up around food, or it's kind of like if you start working out more, you don't start with, 7 days a week, or, you have to
Hmm.
start somewhere, and protecting that. What you were mentioning earlier is such a big part of my audience and the women that I work with's lives, is this reward loop, and it's this, I deserve it. I've been so good and I didn't break any of my rules this week. And so as it relates to alcohol, that's that voice that comes in of like, "Oh, but you've been so good." And there's such a big difference, and I didn't really learn this, or I guess realize it for my own self, until maybe around a year of being alcohol free, where I'll use my creamy example. I'm such a big ice cream person. Having a creamy as a reward feels good. But a glass of wine, because of the nature of it being an addictive substance, it's not going to feel good an hour later or the next day. And so that's where more of that negative self-talk, like, I'm not waking up on a Wednesday morning after having a creamy and beating myself up over it. But I would be waking up on a Wednesday morning if I drank the night before and feeling like garbage and really beating myself up. So it's like, what is that emotional impact that the thing you're consuming has on your emotional well-being, I guess. And so, yeah, you're hitting me on this one. That, like,
I'm so
oh,
glad. You can apply these kind of rules and the cycles to a lot of different things that folks get into, that and food is like we got to eat. So having a positive relationship and navigating your relationship to food, and also, it's such a big part of our wellness and feeling good in our bodies, that it's complicated, and it takes a lot of care and attention.
yeah, it is. It takes practice of
Mhm.
how you want to
Yes.
show up around it. So I'd love to talk about this topic around bringing joy to discipline. Why do
Mhm.
you think this is so important? And what advice do you have for finding this good balance when it comes to wellness?
Yeah, I mean, this relates so much to what we just were talking about, and I think being connected to the why behind what you're doing is the most motivation that you can kind of get. Because intellectually, you could know that, okay, alcohol affects my health negatively in all these ways, but unless you're connecting to, I want to be more present for my kids. I want to wake up and be able to do the things that I want to do. I, don't want to feel numb, or I want to face the emotional challenges that are coming up, to work through them. Like all of those, I think, are really what is going to be the most sustainable kind of motivation. And I think that's been for myself is I spent so long feeling sick and just feeling not good that I just have really oriented my life around feeling as good as possible in my body as much of the time as I can, as I have control over.
You just said something very key, as I have control over.
Mhm.
And when I think about some of the words that you're using, motivation, and we're obviously talking about discipline. It's like these are things that don't just exist within us. They are things that we have to build.
Mhm.
We have to build discipline through repetitive action and having it become normal and seeing the payout of our actions to make us want to continue doing it. We have to maintain motivation through other actions. And some days we may not feel all of that motivated. So we have a choice that day. What do I want to do to turn this around to make me feel like I want to do this? And I love what you said, like connecting to what is really important and why am I doing this? And if one of your core values is family and
Mhm.
relationships, then you want to be present for those things. So I love that. Is there a way to balance food that you know is good for you physically and food that makes you feel good?
Yeah, I mean, I think the food should taste good, and I think that it should be like a pleasurable experience. So, I mean, I've spent in the past many days just like functionally eating, and sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes you just got to get those vegetables in there and you just eat that salad. But I really try and listen to my body in what sounds good right now, cuz trying to force it, caveat on that is that, uh, our standard American diet is oriented towards these hyper palatable foods. So we're training our taste buds and our what we're craving to be super sweet and super salty in that kind of enticingly amazing balance of the two in these kind of processed foods. So there is kind of a retraining time to allow you to be able to orient more towards your body. So it's not just I'm listening to my body and my body wants chips. Sometimes that's the case, but if it's that's the case every single day, maybe let's like look at that and see like what else is happening.
Yeah.
So I think that pleasure is really important and finding how to make those, healthy foods taste good. And for me, that's learning about seasoning and getting quality ingredients. And I think going to the farmer's market and also creating, connection and ways to kind of nest those foods that feel good in a way that's not like I'm having a salad when you're having French fries, but like including people and building more, supports around
Oh my goodness, Lila, you're
it.
hitting you're hitting the mark on me. Like when I go out to dinner with my husband and he gets the side greens and I'm like,
Hmm.
"Damn it, do I have to get the side greens? I wanted the french fries today."
Totally. I
Ah.
mean, I think for me, it is really, I think, about connecting to my body. And for me, I've spent many, many years practicing and getting it wrong so many times before being able to more easily make the choice that feels the best. For example, I feel like blood sugar and balancing your blood sugar is something that I think everybody, could benefit from to their own degree. It's not like you must eat a keto diet or this specific way, but however you can consider your blood sugar when eating food, I think is going to probably make you feel better. So for me, I'm quite sensitive. I have some hormonal stuff that I work with and, in my own body. So blood sugar is really important as a building block for our overall health. And with that, I found that eating a sweet treat that I really want, having that after a balanced meal or after some protein, is a game changer. I can enjoy my cake so much more and not feel a crash and not feel grumpy if I have it after a balanced meal or a balanced snack. But that took years of having a little bit of cake for breakfast, having a really sweet coffee drink on an empty stomach, like all these things, doing it over and over and over, and then connecting over time. Oh, when I drink that really sweet large coffee drink on an empty stomach, I don't feel so great. But if I eat an omelet with eggs and then maybe I have that coffee drink, I can feel better. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I think I was like, I don't know, 45 years old by the time I started to realize these things. Like, oh, you mean I shouldn't eat candy at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when it's been like 3 hours or 4 hours since I've had lunch? Like, no wonder why when I get home at 5:30, I want to take a nap after work. It's not because I had a long day. It's because I'm on a sugar crash.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
another thing that tends to happen to us is we're working, 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 and we don't even eat lunch. And then the
Mhm.
next thing you know, it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon and you haven't eaten. And the easiest thing is, I don't know, a Kit Kat or something. I did learn that if you are going to have a sweet treat, because it's very common, particularly when you eliminate alcohol, to have this, sugar dragon come out inside
Yes.
you. And that is something I always tell the people that I work with. It's like having your sweet treat right after dinner or right after lunch. It is total game changer.
Yeah. I agree. And it's gotten to a point where, like, even if something looks good and it's not the right time, I just say no, or like I save it for later. And that's because for my body, I'm a sensitive person. So I have a sensitive body. And so that just is what works for me. And it's made it so much easier to make those choices when I know that it's going to make my body feel better, and I'm going to have more energy, and I'm going to be able to continue the day that I want to have, rather than just feeling the social pressure of trying the cookie or having the donut because someone else really wants me to have some at that time. I'll say, you know, thank you. I'm so excited to have this, like, after lunch.
Yes, yes. I think there's just as much pressure around you're not going to eat the baked good that I brought, as there is you're not going to have a glass of wine. Like these are
Hmm.
very similar behaviors in human nature, I guess. So what we put in our body can help us feel good, but it can also make us feel not so good, which leads me into more of a discussion around alcohol. So
Hmm.
the women that I work with are very aware that they do not feel good when they drink, not to mention the day after and even many days after. But what's the impact of alcohol on our wellness from this holistic nutrition perspective?
Yeah. So we were just talking about blood sugar. I would say blood sugar disruption is a big part of drinking alcohol, in that it can cause spikes and crashes leading to mood swings and cravings and, just the like up and down of energy. And over time, leading to more metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes, more serious health conditions. So while it might seem blood sugar in general as like a currently mild inconvenience, that happening over time for years and years can really lead to serious health conditions and contribute to overall inflammation. So whether it's around alcohol or not, I'm a big blood sugar like advocate of small hacks can make a huge difference. But alcohol is probably not helping your blood sugar. So
I would say definitely not
yeah.
helping.
Yep. So I'd say the second impact that comes to mind is gut health. And, we talked about at the very beginning the very common phrase, you are what you eat. And in the holistic nutrition realm, we like to say that you are what you digest and don't eliminate. So you could eat all of the amazing kale, quinoa, chicken, sauerkraut that you want, but if your digestion is compromised, if you have inflammation in your gut, if your microbiome is imbalanced, all of those foods, except for probably the sauerkraut, but you're going to have a harder time using all of those amazing nutrients. So alcohol can disrupt our gut lining and disrupt our gut microbiome, and also can impact nutrient absorption. So our gut is where a lot of our immune system lives as well. So we can also feel a weakened immune system from drinking
Right.
alcohol.
Right. I often tell women, and I've talked about this before, that you could eat the healthiest diet in the world, but if you're drinking alcohol, your body isn't even taking in the nutrients from all of these healthy foods the way it could or should be because of, inflammation and everything that you're describing. So I really appreciate you touching on that point.
Yeah, totally.
So the alcohol's gone. We're no longer drinking. Then my favorite topic around emotional sobriety starts
Hmm.
to become in process. All of the things that we've been avoiding while drinking, and how do our nutrition choices support us in feeling good in this way? How do we eat and prepare foods in a way that helps our overall wellness?
Yeah. I'm gonna talk about blood sugar again because it's that important. My two, I'd say, pillars around like fundamental overall health are really blood sugar and digestion. To get people from maybe having some uncomfortable symptoms, feeling as good as possible with the least amount of effort, like the lowest hanging fruit is what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
are like the blood sugar and gut. Because if you're feeling bloated or you're constipated or you have gas, that is so uncomfortable. And so, supporting your gut is not only helping us to get potentially out of discomfort, but also to really help our body use the nutrients that we're trying to give it. I'd say a few very practical tips are incorporating fermented foods. I'm a big at home fermentation nerd, but you could buy sauerkraut at the store. You can get yogurt of non dairy or regular dairy, whatever works for you. Getting those probiotics in there. And if you are like, I don't like the taste of those, or I just don't have the time, taking a high quality probiotic is another way to I just want folks to get those probiotics in there. And then we also, once we've got probiotics and we're eating those fermented foods, we also need to make an environment and feed those probiotics so that they can, have a good life. So that is going to be your soluble fiber. So think vegetables, legumes, grains to help feed those healthy gut microbes. So we not only have to have those, but we also need to nourish them.
Yeah.
So those are a few around gut health. I mean, also, I would say managing stress, even though that is not necessarily a food, absolutely stress impacts our digestion. We can feel butterflies in our stomach when we're nervous. Our stomach can drop when we are afraid. So our emotions are very tied to our gut. And if you are, chronically going from thing to thing and you're at high level of stress, our body is not giving our digestion the energy it needs. We're in our fight, flight, and freeze, our sympathetic nervous system. And when we eat and when we're eating food, we want to be in our parasympathetic nervous system. So that rest, digest, and heal mode. So, however, you can do that, of course, all the time, but especially around mealtime, how you can kind of don't maybe look at the news or look at work emails if you can help it that are stressful while you're eating so you can optimize that chance of more efficient digestion.
Yes, step away from the desk and sit at a table or
Hmm.
outside and eat your meal. I'm definitely guilty of watching the news while we have dinner at night.
I mean, I eat lunch at my desk working, so definitely not perfect. I try as much as possible to be in a relaxed state while I'm eating, but sometimes I'm eating some sweet potato sticks in the car because I'm late or whatever it is. You got to make the best of what is reasonable and accessible for you.
Exactly. It's all or something, not all or nothing.
Yes.
I just had a client share that saying recently, and I've been adopting it.
I love that. I think that's great. A few tips around blood sugar, since we talked about some practical tips about gut health, just to like get people grounded, oriented on what are some ways they can do that, since we've talked about it so many times throughout this episode already. So I would say pairing carbs with protein, fat, or fiber. I don't like to eat naked carbs. So that means if I'm going to have a piece of toast, I want to put maybe some avocado on it or some sort of peanut butter, something to pair with those carbohydrates to help slow them transforming into sugar in our bloodstream. And it also helps us feel more satiated. So if you have chips on their own versus chips with guacamole or hummus, it's going to help you feel more satiated and you're going to end up eating less chips.
And it's not lost on me that you're describing healthy fats also
Yes,
in here.
absolutely. Hmm. Healthy fats so important. Our brain is made up of fat. So when we're eating not enough healthy fat, our mood is impacted, our focus, our, concentration, our presence. So I think it is unfortunate that there was such a long time of low fat is good and low fat is healthy. Still folks are working out of that mindset.
The women who are listening to this are very busy. They manage a lot. They have back-to-back meetings. They barely have time to go to the bathroom, let alone eat healthy or eat away from their stressful emails. So, how do you make sure that you're taking care of yourself during the day with food and drink breaks? Like, what's your number one?
I would say make it as easy to implement as possible. So that is going to vary on the person. That might mean stocking your snacks. If you don't have time to eat lunch, I'm not going to tell you, I mean, of course eating a balanced meal is going to be optimal, but I'm going to try and work within your what's realistic for you. So
Mm.
that means have some high nutrient snacks. I eat meat, so I have like jerky sticks on hand in my purse at all times, nuts and seeds. I have hummus little packs. I have seed crackers. I've got these superfood bites. So just making eating high protein and healthy fat snacks as easy as possible. And that also might mean, in terms of meals, ordering a delivery kit service to make your meals, having a subscription for your groceries that come, really dialing into making things as easy as possible, especially if you have the resources to do that. Hire a private chef, even making it a social thing, and batch cooking with friends or with your partner. That's what I do. So
Yes. Okay. My next question was going to be, how do you stay creative with your own food prep?
yes, I'm the type of person that I don't mind eating the same thing over and over. So that
Same.
really helps me out. If I needed to eat a different complete thing at every meal, I would probably be having a harder time. But me and my husband are both really big food people. And so we go pretty hard. I think our meal prep is probably feels like extreme sport level of meal prep. And that's not all on my part. He loves to, make bone broth and smoke meat. And so when we do meal prep, we do a lot. And we have a chest freezer in our garage where your freezer, if you're not using your freezer, you should be. Your
Yeah.
freezer is your BFF for meal
Yeah.
prep.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah,
I think we might be the same meal prep spirit animals. Is that
I
what they're
love it.
called? Because my husband, we have a smoker, and my husband, he'll spend a whole day smoking meat, and then I have enough chicken thighs to last me a whole quarter, and our freezer is stocked, and then I can just pull those out, and sometimes I even just add them to like store-bought soups. One of my favorite hacks is to buy the minestrone soup in the produce section at Trader Joe's, and then I just
Mhm.
add chicken to it. Like, that's my lunch every Monday and Tuesday.
That's such a great example of making it work for you, having that anchor protein that is high quality, that's tasty, that you have on hand, and then getting something store bought to mix it with. We do a lot of shredded cabbage salads because they last longer in the fridge as opposed to lettuce. So shredded carrots and cabbage and frise, and then we just put them in some large Ziploc bags with paper towels, and then they'll last a few weeks as long as you've got like that moisture absorption in there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, these are so good. I mean, I could talk about meal prep all day,
Yeah,
but
me
that's
too. We could do another episode all on meal prep. That's
I,
okay.
seriously, that's a different podcast. I'm here for it. Like, I want to switch gears a little bit. One of the things that we're trying to do in this community is really normalize and honestly living alcohol free and reinforce the idea that not drinking isn't something that should feel like shameful or embarrassing. And I think that we've come a long way in our culture. But it's still very much a fear of the women that I work with having to explain themselves and why they're not drinking. So it makes me really happy to see that you're doing this work within corporate America, as we were kind of talking about at the beginning. It feels really inclusive, and I think even perspective expanding for a lot of people. What have been some of the reactions that you've received in these corporate workshops?
Like, come into corporate teams and corporate companies at a very unique place where sometimes all people have chosen to come to one of my workshops. Sometimes one person booked it and everyone else has to show up because
Yeah.
it is their team event and they don't like mocktails and they don't want to make a healthy snack. But they're kind of confronted with that's what we're doing. That's, got the ingredients. That's what we're doing. So I feel really grateful to be in that position to introduce people to something new when they may have never sought that out for themselves if it wasn't for their work booking this event. So I have had a whole variety of reactions. I often ask people, what's your favorite drink of the moment, to kind of be an icebreaker at the
Mm.
beginning of a class. And I can't tell you how many times, and I will continue to get this answer, that for a mocktail class, folks will be like, I like an old fashioned or whiskey neat, in kind of this way that's like pushing up against the wellness themed event that we're doing. Um, Yep, mostly men
Yeah,
who
of
say that.
course. Yeah.
But then I find that it is really gratifying when I get that little hint of, oh, I thought mocktails were Shirley Temples, or this is actually really good. That makes my day. When I hear this is actually really good, it tells me that you didn't think this was going to be good for whatever reason. You don't like non-alcoholic drinks or you don't like ginger, but that there's something in there that, you know, felt yummy to you. I would say I get a lot of those reactions of people crossing their arms and being like, I don't know about this. What's the point? Why are we doing this? I can't wait to add alcohol. And I try and also include those folks as well. And I say, okay, if you want to add alcohol at a different time, go for it. It's not not my company. I try and make those folks feel included because I think that's the best way to reach them,
Yeah.
is by not saying this is the way, this is the only way, but saying, sure, well, if you're open to trying it, the non-alcoholic version, I encourage you to do that and let me know what you think. But I also teach, you know, classes where it is a mocktail kit, but people can add alcohol if they want. And that way, I think, is just, again, trying to make non-alcoholic drinks and alcoholic drinks be at the same level. That is just between choosing, okay, you want apple juice or orange juice. It's not like a lesser than thing. And I think that booking my events really helps to include everybody, and not have those folks feel left out when the default is either non-alcoholic or you can choose either and they're equally as delicious.
Okay, I love this a lot because I dream of a world where somebody says, "Hey, do you want to go out and have a drink?" And you just get to say yes, and it doesn't equate to alcohol. And as you were talking, I'm just like reflecting on myself, where there's definitely a version of me where I can picture myself sitting at my office and learning of the upcoming team building event and seeing like mocktail in the invite and literally rolling my eyes. Like I was that person, and for sure, and complaining like, oh my gosh, because I was always the person like, when do we get to the drinking part of this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to think that that was an old version of me, and you're seeing versions of this in your audience with your attendants, and they just don't have as much information yet. Our identity layers shed and change, and I'm sure that you had an impact on their belief system through that event is also what I'm saying.
I hope so. And I feel through being really warm and friendly and inclusive to folks who drink and who don't drink, I think that people feel comfortable trying something new. And that is one of my goals in my workshops, is just to plant seeds that non-alcoholic bitters are a thing. What are adaptogens and how do they work? How to use tea in a drink that you wouldn't normally make with tea. You know, the surface level is team fun, but the like secret menu is wellness, connection, and presence.
I love it. I love it. After you've said all of this, how would you summarize what healthy living means to you?
Yeah, I would say healthy living to me is all about balance. And we talked about this at the beginning and throughout this episode, that it is really, finding the balance and meeting yourself in every chapter or in every day of what feels good today. Today, I want to indulge and I want to have, I want to get the creamy, and I'm going to really soak up every moment of it. And sometimes I'm feeling under the weather. It's just not the right time for the creamy. And I'm gonna choose, the hot ginger tea instead. I think, balance. And also I keep dialing back into incorporating pleasure into your healthy living and lifestyle, finding things that feel good to incorporate, that bring you happiness and joy. That could be a lot of things, but I think that pleasure is just really important consideration in wellness.
I love it. We talk a lot about boundary setting in my work. And I always say your guideline is, if it doesn't feel good to say yes, it's a no. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
it. We have been talking about so many things, and I know that we are running out of time. But before we go, I'd love to ask you just one last question. And that is, what is something that you are doing right now in your life that makes you feel good AF?
Yeah, I would say I am, getting more into strength training. And that's something that has been feeling really empowering, both emotionally and physically. My job is quite physical. I do a lot of shipping. While I'm part CEO and workshop instructor, I'm also part warehouse. Supporting my body to be able to lift heavy things is really important. And I feel really empowered, intentionally building muscles to help me live the life that I want.
Oh, I love it. You are the epitome of like listening to yourself and taking care of yourself. I love it so much. You can find Lila's website in the show notes, and you can find her on Instagram at Lila Volkas. Thank you so much for coming. This was such a fun conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I absolutely loved it. And we talked about so many things that were so much synergy and overlap of passion. So really, really, this has been lovely.
Thank you for listening to the Feel Good Alcohol Free podcast. If this episode landed for you, it would mean a lot if you left a review or take a quick screenshot of it and share it on social media. That's how this show reaches more women who are ready to stop living in the drinking loop and start leading themselves with confidence again. I'm on a mission to change the way high achieving women think about alcohol, because you don't need more willpower or more rules around your drinking. You need real support, real tools, and the truth about what's actually possible for you. So keep showing up for yourself, keep telling the truth about what you want. And remember, the life you want isn't found in a glass or a bottle of wine. It's built in the decisions that you can stand behind, the ones that you feel really good about. My DMs are always open, and I can't wait to get to know you better. I will see you next week in the next episode.